Well, let's try this again. Ah. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Where's my sack of stuff? There it is. Okay, got somebody showed up. Oh, I hate YouTube. I hate computers. I hate cables. Now we got 3. Now we got 0. Then we got 1. I don't know what's going on. Oh, dearie. 2. Says I got 2. Now it says 3. Oh, now 4. Sounds like they're getting over here. Oh, thank you, Mr. Lodak. I appreciate it. You're amazing. You're good with electrons, Mr. Lodak. I'm not, Jaron.
Hi, Mr. Lodak, and
Hey, blind dude. Yeah, thank you very much.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, I got 6 now. There's Tricky. Lars. Give everyone a few minutes. Jaron says hi, little one.
Hi.
Uh-huh. Hey, David. Oh, darn it. Hey, Gold Panner. Apparently, riding a quad for a little bit uses joints and muscles that are not normally used. Hey, Scotty. Oh, it was a long weekend. We decided to try something a little different this weekend. We when Jack LaLanne moves 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We spent Sunday afternoon out there and therefore got things mostly ready to head out Sunday evening. And then I packed up most of the stuff this morning while Eva slept in a little bit later. And hi, blind dude. And that seemed to work out better, especially as when we were coming back, we still uh, the there's a long shallow grade coming back, and in the middle of the afternoon or early evening, the truck runs pretty warm, but at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's not nearly as bad. So it seemed to work pretty well. The negative is that we don't have much time to deal with issues before the live stream, and in this case, on the way back, we got a flat on the trailer, not a blowout. Just we went through a construction zone, and a mile or two later, the truck seemed to be a little squirrely. So I looked in the rear view, and sure enough, I could see the tire on my side was bulging pretty bad. Yeah. And so got that changed, and then the spare itself was fairly light for the loads we're carrying. So wound up uh, changing 2 tires and taking the old tire that was still on the axle on the spare. So we're ready to go there. On the way down there, it was a little more serious. There was a, hey, Paul, hey, Douglas. We had a little bit of an oil leak starting on the engine. So I looked, and sure enough, it's fitting where there's an oil line. It's a direct reading oil pressure gauge in the panel, so it has to have an oil line, and that fitting right on the engine, it's compression fitting, has a tendency to leak. So I tightened that up, and then a couple miles later on the road, I was looking behind and I said, little one, we got smoke coming behind us. And I looked at the gauge, my oil pressure gauge was at 0. So pulled it over quickly, and I had enough oil to get it back where it could get oil pressure. And I had a spare fitting because I've had issues there before, and trying to find an 1/8-inch compression fitting can be a little challenging at times. So I went and got that fixed, got back to the nearest town, bought more oil because I was still underneath the ad line. And went on down the road. So, a little fun getting down and getting back. Plus, it's been hot, like in the 90s. And it's not too bad for me in the hole. I'm 20 feet down now, and so it's pretty cool. Yeah, pay attention to what's important, Chris. Focus on, life-threatening emergencies are more important than the live stream. And so anyhow, we did pretty well. The first day we didn't get any mining done. We went and first of all popped a hard spot with the Sierra Blaster, and then replaced some ladder track with some different, and yeah, the for those who saw my video today, what I showed you back there worked. It worked amazingly well. I was shocked. I wish all my devices would function so smoothly. And but I say that it worked real well. And the only thing I want to do is put a little something on the front axle of the carriage so that when the cable is brushing it, it doesn't get any abrasion. I mean, that axle's threaded rod, so it's not the best thing to be brushing against, even if it's very lightly and only a little time. And so I'll put something on there. Also, with the extra, well, that's very obscure, Lawrence. F1XOR3D. Any idea? Oh, one fix or repair daily.
Well, that's why we don't drive Fords.
You're reloading the first link, huh? Okay. So anyhow, that worked out well, but we had to replace one of the pieces of ladder track with a specially reinforced piece. Don't know if we needed to, but it's stronger. And the issue was that said piece of ladder track was up in the decline to where I couldn't work off of a platform. So I had to hang on a rope while Eva worked the piece of ladder track with the winch. I tied up to the old one, unpinned it, let her lower it down, and then pulling the new one up. That winch, of course, very high gear, very low gear ratio. So you hit it, the engine spins and takes a while to slow down. So when she was pulling the other piece up, it really snugged the clove hitch onto that rung, so I had to cut the rope off with a really dull knife. That sucked. I really need to sharpen my knife again. I really wear it out on rocks. But
You really need to get a new knife.
the new ladder track worked just fine. Did exactly what it was supposed to do, and yeah, you're right, blind dude. Uh, that's it's not alliteration, I don't think. Uh, don't worry. Uh, blind dude said, "So your wench operates the winch?"
I am a winch wench.
She's a winch wench, he says. Yes. And so anyhow, no barrel on a rope. No, I don't just dump it at the surface and process it there. I got to haul it. So I mean, getting it off of the down to where I can get a quad to it. That's about a 40-foot vertical drop. So that goes down the high line. Might as well leave it in the buckets. Then I got to haul it from the road level down to the trailer. Might as well leave it in the bucket. And then we got to haul it from there to the um, mill. Might as well leave it in the buckets. So yeah, it stays in the same bucket until it gets to the mill. Then it goes into the RC46, and from there, actually a wheelbarrow just to dump it over by the Stutenroth. But that gives you an idea of what we're doing. Once we get everything all smoothed out, we may very well um, kind of do a, what do they call that? A playlist, from start to finish or whatever. But yeah, the biggest bottleneck right now is the mining of the ore in terms of there's hard spots in and around the vein in places. Yeah, David, for quite a bit of money, no power. So now we need a generator too. And then, let's see, what else? If it's out there at the mine, that would be something called, permits. And. But let's say we can load it and send it pretty easy. It's the breaking it. Most of the vein is pretty easy. On the other hand, say these hard spots just take up all the time. So I'm trying to get the right balance of how much A, complexity, and B, you still got to hoist it up out of the carriage, swing it around, and so I can do it with one hand, ink, fast. When you're dealing with small quantities of material, a lot of time a human being is an extremely versatile and rapid method of material handling. You would be surprised. I got a fly here I'm going to have to kill shortly, I'm sure. But anyhow, it's not that I am crazy, but that's not the reason. It's an actual fly. But anyhow, yeah, it's not bad. Again, my arm can easily just jerk it out of the carriage in a second. Also, somewhere roughly around half of the buckets contain waste, which needs to be carried and thrown off the dump. We're not loading them full. And at the mine, I said 30 pounds is about what I'm shooting for, because I can take it out of the carriage without too much strain. The high line can take it downhill without too much strain, and Eva can get it off of the high line without too much strain. Also, when it hits the landing at the bottom of the high line, it doesn't break buckets. You load it full, when it slams in, you're going to break buckets on a regular basis. Ask me how I know. Uh, and that's not terribly. Also, if you put 350-pound buckets in the rack on the quad, you bend the rack. Again, ask me how I know. So we keep them around 30 pounds till we get them to the trailer, and then we consolidate. Basically, 2 buckets in, and then 1 bucket split between them, and just keep doing that. Take the empties back up the hill. Seems to work pretty well. Again, the bottleneck is the actual mining itself. The loading the buckets. Once I've got it broken up, I can load a bucket in anywhere from 15 seconds to 45 seconds, depending upon what the rock is. It's a bunch of big rocks. If it's the vein rock and fairly well broken up, which a lot of it does. Once I raked it with a rock pick, 3 scoops like this, literally about that fast, with just gloved hands, and that bucket's full. It's just that quick. So I'm not too worried about anything at this point except for the breaking of the rock. And we're trying different things. We may, for example, start putting still haven't got the Hilti back, but start putting hard facing on the edge of the chisel bits and sharpening it to a fairly sharp edge, and seeing how well that helps penetrating some of the harder stuff. And because that would be easier than drilling with the for the Sierra Blaster. Sierra Blaster works fine. The trouble is drilling the holes. I was able to quantify with brand new drill bits in the quartz that we call kryptonite, good hard quartz, as opposed to easily fractured quartz. I get about 8 inches of wear out of a single drill bit before it's too worn to really advance very much at all. And that's by rotating them, taking 5 bits and rotating them quickly so none of them get too hot. I don't think putting water down the hole will do much good, because when you're drilling like that, it's quickly making mud. But that'll be my next experiment to see if that works well or not. I am going to have to figure out a way to properly and efficiently sharpen these bits myself, because $7 per 8 inches, and it gets pretty pricey. So I'm sure that, I've heard that the new drill doctor can do it. And that's something that I need to work on fairly quickly, because if I could sharpen the drill bits quicker and easier, then I could be more profligate in my use of Sierra Blaster. But I'm working to try and refine that and see what's the best use of the time, because you have to stop with the demo hammer. You got to remove the demo hammer, although that can pretty much be put on the carriage and hauled up. Yeah, that's my thought, Chris. I don't think it's going to be a big issue, but I'm going to have to figure out exactly how to do it, and go from there. They look pretty simple. Yeah, just a drill guide, basically, I think. A groove and with the angle and everything, and then just push it in by hand. I think that would work pretty well, but we'll see. Anyhow, I'm not terribly worried about that, but it's something I got to get done, just like everything else. And the vein itself is generally chewing up pretty good. Some places where it's more silicified, it's amazingly tough to penetrate. The chisel will go in, but it's literally chewing it up as it goes, as opposed to splitting it off, which is much more efficient. Some people don't realize you don't want to pulverize the rock with a jackhammer. You just want to split chunks off of it that are big enough to handle. That's what the crusher's for. Screw you, Lars. I disagree. In my professional opinion, I disagree. But anyhow, aside from that, I'd say the vein's popping out pretty good. The wall rock along the vein is popping out pretty good, except for this one spot. And in the vein zone, it's kryptonite. I mean, it's quartz. There's a quartz lens there, and it's pretty freaking tough. And everything around it is kind of tough. So I think that the quartz came in kind of later and silicified some of the other stuff. I don't know. Whatever. It's a tough spot. Everything else is going pretty good. We still sunk about 2 feet this weekend, got over a ton of ore, which, probably helped with the tire failing. We did like the new schedule. Finishing up in the morning was nice because typically, I'll wake up around 7 and Eva likes to wake up around 9. Yesterday afternoon, we took enough down. We got the head frame in the shaft, which is the toughest thing for one person to do. And then I got the rest of the stuff down the hill this morning. That's a good question, Paul. If I drill a hole in the wall rock and blast next to the hardened kryptonite, would that be a more efficient way of doing it? And I agree. If it'll make the drill bits last longer, that would be fine. I mean, if they last longer, I'll probably drill the hole so much faster it wouldn't take more time. But another question is, let me get this over here a little closer here. That's centered. Yeah, pretty close. So let's suppose we have a situation like this. This is a top view, and this is an end view. Okay, here's our vein. And here we've got a hard spot in it. It's really, really, really tough stuff here. And end view, here's the walls. Here's the surface we're working. And it kind of goes down like this. Okay? None of these are continuous either. It just varies and varies. So if you drill, say, 2 holes like this, and put your Sierra blasters in there like that, will that do a better job of fracturing the rock for drill holes? Because this would take, say, 20 inches of hole. Or go deeper and add more charges, because they got boosters. So, you could put like 2 boosters in a charge and shoot it at once. Now, in this case, you're only talking about a 15-inch hole. So you save 1/4 of the drilling. Now, the other question was, what if you say, mine this out here, remove that, and then put your holes over here in the softer rock, right here, and then blast this way, or at least attempt to? What will happen? I don't know. I will find out experimentally as time goes on. But these are the sort of things to test and see, because I can see lines of argument for each, but I'm not knowledgeable enough to be able to predict. If you can drill holes in softer rock next to the hard rock and still bust it out efficiently, that would probably be the way to go. Hey, Jim. It could be, but the question is it going to blow it this way or is it just going to blow up? That's the question, because the difference in strength is dramatic. You know, it's not just this is twice as strong, like this is 10 times as strong as that. So I'm afraid all you're going to do with like this is you're going to crater right here and very little damage to that. Now, if it just breaks it a little bit, that would be acceptable as far as I'm concerned. If I can just get someplace to start working with the chisel bit. Yep. Oh, okay, Jim. Tired, huh? Yeah. That's the way it works. Even I've just been out there for 3 days is all, but this heat doesn't make it any better. Oh, but these are some of the things I need to test. And I've got just the spot to test it right now. Because what I've got, this is the actual situation. Here's the opening here. Looking down. Here's the existing edge down the decline this way. This right here is almost full width vein. And it looks good and it busts up real well. And right here goes out like this. This here is only this wide a vein. This is wall rock here. But this breaks up pretty easily. It just comes up big chunks pretty easily. You can spall it off without a problem. This right here breaks up pretty well, looks pretty good. Right in here, the vein, this zone here is tough. And then we got a couple layers of quartz. With this being a little more fractured. So this is actually easier to remove than this. So right now I've taken most of this stuff off. And if I put charges here, it's not going to blow that way very well. My question is, should I put a hole in here and try and blow this way, which I think is what I'm going to try initially. And I think I'm going to try a deep hole. This is not that big. This is, I don't know, 30 inches. And this is about 8 inches. And this used to extend further back, but it's been breaking up easier as I got to depth. There used to be a big hard spot here. But once I got through it, it's just soft vein all the way. So that's what I think I'm going to try next weekend. Drill one deep hole right there and see if I can blast it out, because this should give me good, decent containment. And then that, it's pretty well dug out. On a side view, it's kind of like that. So if I can get it, charged down here and just blow this direction, I think that'll work. We shall see what we shall see. Yep, Lawrence, take your time. Well, Jim, is he keeping up with the crew? Because if he is at 11, then he's doing pretty good. Expanding concrete would need a much larger hole, which means a larger drill and a few other things. Sierra Blaster is much quicker. Expanding concrete takes half a day to a day. Sierra Blaster takes a couple minutes to set the charge and shoot it. So, hey, Shaggy. Okay, thanks, Paul. I agree. Wow, that's pretty good, Jim. Need 6 more thumbs up. Okay. It's getting pretty narrow. I understand what you're saying, but I mean, I'm already like that deep. Now it's getting very difficult to work in it. And so it's really slowing me down. But that's my thought. Drill one hole, give it a shot, see what happens. If it just loosens it a little bit, just this, where I can break it up, that'll work. And we shall see what we shall see. Yeah, the expanding concrete works real well for particular niche applications, but it takes time, and it's not cheap, and it takes a decent hole because you can only split 10 times the diameter of the hole. So in my case, I want to split 5 inches, so I'd need a half an inch diameter hole, which is a little bigger one, but I need it like every 8 inches. You know, that's not going to work too well. You know, so I like the Sierra Blaster for the speed. Just trying to figure out what's the most efficient way to use it under different applications. Also, I keep running into different rock down there. I was like, man, I'd love to assay that and that and that.
We ran into that galena this week.
Yeah, we may have run into some galena. I don't know if it's specular hematite or galena for sure, but I tried scratching it with the knife, which isn't as sharp as I'd like. And I did not get a red streak. So I'm suspecting galena. And so I think it's probably galena, but when we get it out to the lab and I have a razor knife, I'll give it another scratch.
I'll be looking at it under the microscope.
Well, Paul, if I was to use the Sierra Blaster in a method which was not specifically recommended by the manufacturer, I think it would be irresponsible of me to document any such misuse. Yeah, you can also usually in the field just scratch it with a knife point and see what color scratch you get out of it too, Rock. Don't have a streak blade right now, although I should. Not that's anywhere close to as efficient as a regular rock drill, although I have seen them where they're checking something where they just drill holes and then they insert a real strong rod with an expanding head, grip at the back of the hole, and just pull back toward the face and spall off the rock. And in the particular application they were trying it, I think it was working reasonably well. But the fastest way in most cases is in reasonably hardened material is still drilling and blasting. In softer material, if you've got enough that you have to move. Continuous mining works well, either big tunnel boring machines or something called like a DOSCO or a longwall cutter or whatever. Basically, you have a moving head with a bunch of tungsten carbide tip points that's pushed into the rock and literally grinds it away. You've seen a similar thing with an asphalt milling machine. If you've been out there on a construction job where they're resurfacing and they're just shaving the top of the uh, road off, same type of technology. They actually use bigger machines of similar uh, methodology to mine hematite in Australia that I've seen, you know, but they um, just shave it off, and the trucks are following along next to it, catching on the conveyor. Once that truck's full, they stop the conveyor for a minute or a second, a new one pulls in, and voila. Yeah, Paul, if the rock is soft enough, continuous mining works good. Um, in longwall coal mining, um, for those of you not familiar, it's pretty interesting. This is, you're looking at the end this way. Here's your hanging wall. Here's your floor. And they have these big shields, big giant hydraulic rams here to support the hanging wall and, or the back in this case, generally. And right along here, there's a conveyor belt and a shearing machine. And what it does is it will actually cut the coal seam out, throw it on the conveyor belt, and as it makes a slice, then these advance forward. So it takes 6 inches here, then these 6 inches. And from a top view, you'll have one tunnel at this end, one tunnel at this end. Then they'll drive across tunnel and set up all your shields. That's what these things are called. And all your longwall equipment. And then it advances sideways like this and completely takes out everything. You say, well, how does the back stay up? Answer, it doesn't. As they continue on out, the back breaks up and falls in. So that's called longwall mining. It's highly efficient. It's pretty capital intensive. You got to buy a lot of equipment. And of course, all of this, is moved from one panel to another like that. It has some subsidence, but not as much as you would think. Like if you're block caving, you get a whole lot of subsidence. The one that got me was they were doing one where they were longwalling underneath the ocean, about 600 feet below the floor. Now, when the rock breaks, it expands, because it's got voids in it now. So it can only break so high. And the engineers assured them that it would never break high enough to allow the ocean in. I'm sure that I would be nervous about that. In San Manuel, Arizona, there's a pretty darn big hole in the ground. There's now a pit there where they were actually digging also, but they had about a 400-foot hole in the ground from block caving. Yeah. So, I say it's one of those deals where it can sometimes work very, very well. Other times, bad things can happen. Kind of like that mine in Louisiana where it was a salt mine down there, and they were out on a lake drilling for, I think it was natural gas. And they accidentally hit the mine, and the whole lake went into the mine. Oopsie. I only saw them. I have not looked at them, Tricky, because I said, we just got home a couple hours ago, literally, with the change in schedule and then the flat tires and stuff. Well, Chris says it's good. Yep. So I'll have to look it over with Eva probably tomorrow because this will run late enough. We'll be pretty tired. But yeah, we'll get a look. And then Lawrence sent a lot of information too.
Yeah, if Lawrence is here tonight, thank you, Lawrence.
Eva says thank you, Lawrence, if you didn't hear her. So
I like scientific.
how well is it working there, Tricky? Let's see. Clicking to the thing here, new process 1, 2, 3. Let's see what the no visible plating. Something resembling silver is played out of the electrode. Color is blue black. Wow. Conclusion. The process appears to extract the gold from the resin within 20 minutes. Sweet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it using anything we already have?
I don't know. I haven't read the details. You can actually get on my email and read the details if you want instead of sitting over there. Okay. Oh, so you're not in Forest Hill, Chris? Oh, that would be really bad. Like I say, you can't do anything. Oh, that's horrible.
What's up?
I got a fire near his house.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, Jason in, I don't know, Central America, Honduras, I think, he said they're using zinc foil strips to precipitate the gold out of the Eco Goldex. So, I don't know. Helicopter, Chris. Over here, Chris, they had a fire to the east of us. Very windy day. Started in the fields, went through the wheat and into the hills and stuff. And I mean, we had a DC-10 tanker over here, but people were going out there and flying their drones to keep an eye on things. And they said, sorry, we're going home. You can't get those drones out of the air. We're not going to be in it, you know? So, yeah. Well, Tricky seems really happy with it. So, yeah, we'll definitely have to look at it because, yeah, that's the other thing that we need to do right now. Besides increasing the mining rate, we also need to start getting the gold out of resin at reasonable speeds. I think at this point, maybe Chris or Tricky or Lawrence, the loading we're getting right now is about half of the loading we were getting last fall. On the other hand, the solution concentrations we're getting right now are about half what we had last fall, due to two things: the ore grade and the solid liquid ratio in the slurry. So I think that's purely a consequence of the higher solution concentrations and we'll see what happens once. Theoretically, as the ore grade increases, we should be able to see a higher loading factor. And Eva's can only move so fast, especially when the damn kiln keeps breaking. I did something really stupid the other day. The kiln stopped again, only this time it was strange. I think maybe we fried the controller itself because I shorted out the electrodes, the heating element accidentally. I was trying to move one side and actually touched it with the metal implement on the other. And so I may have fried the controller. So basically, the heating elements were on continuously, and it wouldn't cycle, and should have just blown the fuse. Well, question, Chris, is that the external fuse or an internal fuse? And if so, why would it still be feeding power to the relay? It seemed like it was still feeding power to the relay, or the relay would have to have been a normally closed relay because it was still feeding power to the elements.
It just won't stop working.
So anyhow, so what's going on? Did the relay short out? Possible, but it does seem to be getting voltage to the low voltage side of the relay.
After he did his abysmally stupid thing that he will tell you about, what's going on is normally the elements will cycle on and off. Like if you've got it set to get to 1750, when it gets to 1750, it will shut off and it will cycle to try to maintain a temperature. It don't do that anymore. So now I'm doing it manually, and it actually works better, which is scary.
So anyhow,
it solidifies my opinion. I need a real furnace.
Whatever it was that happened, and Eva's got a workaround going on right now. Yeah, I'm not sure which it is, Chris. It should be relatively easy to fix. Is this a normal relay or SSR? Have no clue. It's about that big. Yeah. And so what she's doing is adjusting the door gappage to get approximate temperature she needs, and she can also turn it off manually. And so she's making it work. But what happened was I was outside. I was having problems with the pumps kicking off the GFI on the generator. And I'd been working on that for 5 or 10 minutes while she was inside. And yeah, Chris, tell me what I might need to check. But I think I had voltage to the low voltage side, even though the, what do you call it? The display was saying stop. Okay. So it shouldn't have been trying to activate them, but it was. I guess SSR stands for solid state relay. Don't know. But anyhow, since she's got to work around, it's not high on my priority list. But what happened was I've been trying to get the pumps running because they were keep tripping off. And then, so I couldn't start feeding ore into the tank if I don't have pumps running. So then she comes out, it stopped working again. So I go in there and I look and I see what's happening is continuing to, bump up the temperature. And so like a complete blithering idiot. I mean, I knew it had to be in the control box. So I got to get into the control box, which means I got to get into the bottom of the kiln. So while she wasn't looking, I grabbed it and went like this so I could start getting to the control box, completely forgetting that she's probably not going to be running a kiln without something in it.
I was running a kiln with a full crucible in it that had a critical experiment that I only had 2 copies of instead of 4. Yeah,
Normally active low current sync configuration. So you should have power to the coil, but no connection to ground. Okay, so it grounds through the controller is what you're saying, Chris? Okay. So I can
Don't
check it.
mess with it, Bear.
She's pretty happy that it's still working. Well, that she's able to make it work. Because also she gets a little bit faster turnaround time. So she's happy.
let me put it this way. This is the closest thing to an actual furnace, is in a nice gas furnace that doesn't have stupid bullshit attached to it. I can control the temperature real well. I can keep a close eye on things, and it's actually slightly sped up my production time, though I still can't put 2 crucibles in it anymore because he made the wall so thick the 2 wouldn't fit in there anyway.
But at least the elements are working. I say
Yes. It's
all of this
currently on.
will probably wind up with a new kiln, custom built, probably 220 volts, 210 volt elements, with the appropriate relay. Little one, gas does certain things, electric does other things. Once you figure out how to do stuff, then we can figure out what to do it with. I say, for all I know, we're going to be switching to electrolytic stuff here. If you want to read the emails that are sitting in your inbox, we might not need it anymore. Well, I figured the switching would be on the current, the low side, but I wouldn't. I'm not used to switching the neutral. I'm used to switching the hot. So say I tested one terminal to the case and I got voltage. I tested the other terminal to the case and I think got the same voltage. I tested terminal to terminal and got no voltage. So that would indicate to me that it's flowing through that thing, but I never thought they'd be switching the neutral side. So if they're switching the neutral, then yeah. Yeah, that's kind of, I'm used to, house wiring and stuff where you always put switches and safety devices on the hot side because you don't want to. And in that house in Tucson, they switched the neutrals, which was kind of a surprise at one point when I went to replace a light fixture. Turn the light switch off. Not dead. What the hell? Well, that's why. So anyhow, as I say, the lessons learned is, let's say, we can build a much better electric furnace, I think, in the long run. But right now, we're using what we got for what we got. The mill itself seems to be crushing gold, dissolving gold, loading it on the resin just fine. The power handling capacity to sink is far better than sourcing, huh? Yeah, Lawrence, I agree. I say, but apparently that's not standard for some operations. How odd. I didn't know everything. Wow. But yeah, luckily I didn't do too much damage to the kiln because I had just completely lined it with Satanite. So I was actually able to open the door, turn it the other way, and get at least half of the lead out of it. Oh, man, it's nice to have somebody who's smart enough to actually argue with Chris. Wow. That's amazing. But anyhow, I'm sure there's a technical reason for something involved here. But anyhow, so I'm really happy to see that, Tricky. I'll have to look at that more carefully when we're done here. That and busting the rock at the mine are the two significant issues. If I can start, low voltage DC. Yeah, is it pulse DC though, I imagine? RCD, I don't know what that is. A GFI, I know what that is. Yeah, it's plugged into a GFI at the generator. But anyhow, so Eva's been running into even more issues than I have. Residual current device, so bleed capacitance and stuff. Um, and I say she's been having to put up with some crap. But those are the big slowdowns. Yeah, pretty much, Shaggy. That's why, thinking back on it, when I can see the elements and they're nice and glowy hot, the thing to do is quickly switch off the thing and move it while you can still see what's going on, but without it actually being energized. See, I think of these things. Unfortunately, too late. And so that's what's going on there. But yeah, we have an interesting subject for next week, which I'm not at liberty to discuss right now because there are certain time-sensitive things there that we need to get our ducks in a row on. I think you'll find it interesting. But that's about it. Jim is out of town with his buddy, I think his name's Joe, and they're back in Minnesota, I think, going to get some stuff. So that's where he's at right now. And so we shall see what's going on. $1, $2, and. Yep. Oh, now we got the experts going back and forth. Lauren says, Chris, I do PLCs for a living. I guess that means something logic controller, maybe. Programmable logic controller would be a guess. And Chris comes back. I wrote courses for them. I'm glad I'm too ignorant to have a dog in this fight. Man. Yeah, nothing like a typo at an inopportune time. Oh my goodness. There you go, Lars. That's nice being retired, huh? Oh. And yep. My youngest daughter got a good raise last month, so that's good. I agree, Lawrence. If somebody gives me the wiring diagram and the parts numbers and where to get them, I can probably put it together, no problem. I just need to know, is it the controller or the relay? And it seems to me that the controller is displaying normally. It's displaying the temperature normally. It's displaying the programmed operation normally. But whether or not it's functioning internally normally, I have no idea. Also, I'll have to look and see. I don't recall seeing an internal fuse anywhere. And so I'm not sure. But as long as Eva's happy, I'm not going to bother it at all. Trust me, because we don't want to. I don't want to do anything, and then it doesn't work out right, and then Eva will not only be angry, but she will have a target for her anger, and this can be less than ideal. But anyhow, So it sounds like we're making progress everywhere, which is great. And we have, uh, let's say, people all over the world working on this, which is amazing. Um, let's see. Still haven't got the Hilti back. The Bosch is still a big beast. Um, yeah, let's say the three of you can argue this all you want. I have no qualifications to get involved. I still have 10 original bits that haven't been used at all. I got 5 that are worn out. I've got 5 that are somewhat worn out. So not a problem. And cold beer drinking in a cool shower. Ooh, sounds chilly to me. But so I have enough to get the next holes in. I'm going to try using water down the hole as a coolant. I don't think it's going to work very well, but it might. We'll find out. And I'll still keep it up to a count of 5 on each drill bit before taking it out so I can put a new one in. Rock, even then, I never really liked cold showers. Cooler, but still not cool, Although when I'm out in the heat and there's a cool pond there, yeah, I can do that. When we were at ChemGold and we were lining our ponds, the pregnant pond was pregnant. That might have been the barren pond, but anyhow, we had one of the ponds lined, and we were filling it with water before adding any cyanide or whatever. So for about 1 to 2 weeks, we had a pool at the end of the day, and everyone would basically strip down to just their pants and go swimming before we came back to town. It was nice. Yeah, that sounds about right, Rock. Yeah, you guys know a heck of a lot more than I do on this stuff. So just tell me what I need to do to check it out, and I'll go from there. Send me a picture of the SSR, and I'll send you a couple. I'll try and remember next time I get it apart. Yeah, swim is nice. Lawrence suspects the relay. Okay. Yeah, I know there's people. I don't like cold water. My brother can handle pretty cold, wet water. Not this boy. What I really like to do is go skin diving in clear water that's a reasonable temperature. That's cool to just be swimming along and seeing what's going on and looking at all the fish and like that. And so, yeah, that's that was cool. One time, what day did they land on the moon? I mean, what year was that? Was that 69?
69.
69. We were in Florida, summer of 1969. I can remember this. It was, yeah, because it was Apollo 9 when they landed on the moon. They launched while we were in Florida, and Mom would not let us go to watch the launch. She didn't want to fight the crowds. We were in Fort Lauderdale. But anyhow, the place we were staying at there There were some old limestone quarries there which had filled with water. It was very clear, and it was really cool to swim around there, and mask and fins and snorkel and stuff, until we found out there was an alligator there too. Then it made it a little bit, but we mitigated that by finding that we could go into this one pool, one old quarry, and catch bluegill, then unhook them and throw them on the other side of the little road we were on, and feed the alligator. So that was cool. They're very fast, snapping sideways. If that thing would splash next to his head, bam, he was on it quick. About 5 foot, enough to hurt. But yeah, I do love swimming in pleasant temperature water that's clear. Yeah, like that. Yeah, Shaggy. I imagine even a 5-footer could put the hurt on you. So I say we stopped the swimming then, but we did have fun feeding the alligator. That was cool. And we were in Bangor, Maine when they landed on the moon. Maybe it was Apollo.
And I was in Quincy, Massachusetts.
It must have been Apollo 8 they were launching when we were in Florida, because that's too close a lead time for Apollo 9 landing on the moon. Yeah, it must have been Apollo 8. We were in Florida for
I was
and
in
Apollo
Quincy,
9.
Massachusetts when we landed on the moon.
But that was cool.
And today is a day that will live in infamy.
Hearken, the goddess speaketh. Go ahead.
In 1971, on this day, Richard Milhouse Nixon
Boo.
temporarily removed America from the gold standard.
Closest thing to eternal life is a temporary government program. Anyhow, when I get to working to fix it, I'll see what the relay and the controller are and send that stuff to you, Lars.
Please don't fix my furnace again. Please.
See why I'm not worried about it? If she doesn't want me touching it, sorry.
I'll ban you from the damn lab. Until a gas furnace materializes, that's all I have.
Yep. It certainly could be. I have no clue. But anyhow, so, and just got back some results from the tank solution assays and the charges we're throwing in there. We're getting like 85% recovery into solution during the agitation process, with one caveat. And after it goes through the leach pad, we're getting another part per million in solution, which brings it up to 100% recovery. That's kind of my thought, Lars. And so the caveat is there's a fair amount of dead bedding there. And any gold dissolved in the dead bedding would probably not make it into the bulk solution, therefore not be available for assay. But when you dump it, all of that stuff's going to mix and be released and then leach out. So that may be the thing. But I mean, we're getting pretty good recoveries into solution. And to save money, the claim owner wishes to at least temporarily stop spending the $45 per batch solids assay. The solution assay is $25, and because the sample is much bigger, it's much more likely to be directly proportional to what's actually in the rock. So we're going to be inferring the rock concentration from the solution concentration, at least for a while now. Yeah, that'd be pretty funny, Mr. Lodak. So that's one little process change there. I don't think it'll be negative because he's basically saying we take the rock, we throw it in the solution, we get what we get. Why bother testing? It's kind of hard to argue with that in terms of, yeah, I like the information, but you know, we can infer, and the main thing is how much gold are we getting? You know, thank you, Tricky. And so that's what we're going to be doing. You know, now we'll have basically 6 batches where we have a head ore assay and a solution assay. So let's say statistically we'll be able to do a good job of figuring out roughly where we're at with this method. It disturbs my wah not to be getting solid numbers everywhere, but what the hell. And he's absolutely right. What matters is how much gold are we getting? Are we doing a good job, and how much gold comes out? Unless we need the information to tell if we're doing a good job or how we could do it better, it's hard to tell. The spot test is doing a good job telling us how the resin is doing, so when to pull it out of circuit. And by the way, Chris and Lawrence and Tricky, do you think that the maximum effective loading in resin is directly proportional, or at least proportional, to the concentration of gold in solution? Because it would be nice to get a higher loading factor, but I think that's why we're at these lower loading factors. And we could take that resin and put it back into circuit if we had higher solution concentrations, if that's our limiting factor. Also, the resin that we tried to elute with sodium hydroxide and Eco Goldex, we eluted something, I'm presuming pretty much iron because of the color and everything, but we didn't get much gold. And Eva's fire assay has shown excellent results from that. So we may have been removing a contaminant that would cause problems fairly easily. And not yet, Tricky. But anyhow, the elution of that, I mean, it's sodium hydroxide and Eco Goldex. So all of that solution can just be dumped right into the agitation tank, and any gold that's in it, which was relatively low, without heat, and we got strongly colored solution. We only got 35 parts per million of gold in solution.
Well, we got a lot of precipitates without heat.
And she also noticed that there was a black precipitate forming.
Highly magnetic.
Just let me finish, please. When she was using 1% sodium hydroxide and 3% Eco Goldex, no heat, and we did it for days. And she's getting this black precipitate, which was highly magnetic. So I'm thinking we might have been precipitating magnetite. But anyhow, when she took the resin that we first of all tried to elute with the cold Eco Gold X sodium hydroxide solution, and then we tried it with hot Eco Gold X sodium hydroxide, and we went, that when it was hot was 135 parts per million gold in solution, but when she went and fire assayed it, she got a bigger bead of gold than she did when she fire assayed it before we eluted it. So using the sodium hydroxide Eco Gold X elution seemed to remove a complicating factor without really removing much gold. And whatever gold we did lose would be easy to just dump in, just dump that solution back into the agitation tank. Okay, Lawrence, we'll see what happens. First, I got to get some solution that's stronger. But it's complicated, and. But that may be another trick in properly assaying a resin, is to contact it with sodium hydroxide Eco Gold X first. That may remove contaminants that cause complications. Remember the study that Chris sent me, gold chloride and silica, an artificial ore basically, when subjected to 250 degrees C, lost about 3 to 5% of the gold. I think it was only 3% of the gold. But when you mix some iron pyrite in there, that jumped to 95% of the gold. So clearly the iron caused issues. They were speculating that caused an iron gold chloride complex that was much more volatile. Seems reasonable, but they hadn't done the research to definitively determine what the heck was going on. Well, we certainly have iron in that resin, and it looks like we're removing the iron into the Eco Gold X elution solution. And so that might be what we're doing. We're essentially taking it from this high loss to a very low loss. And if we can do that in terms of ashing the resin, that's another possibility. Again, we'll have to see what Tricky Dickies come up with here, and see if we can effectively ash the resin after just not handy, Chris. I got some what were we discussing? Hydrazine sulfate is on the way, and sodium citrate is on the way. Okay. Maybe here for all I know. Let's see. Open another window. Go here. And orders. See what we got. What is that? Hydrazine sulfate. Left inside the resident's mailbox. Well, since it wasn't sent to a residence. Interesting. Sodium citrate. It's been shipped. Batteries have shown up. The big climbing hook arrives tomorrow. So where the heck did they send that to? Okay. It's at the shop.
Oh, well, that's great.
And citrate should be showing tomorrow by 9 p.m. at the P.O. box. And I believe
I still have to pick up some ascorbic acid too.
That should be at the shop. The battery should be at the shop. No, you don't need to buy ascorbic acid. You just need The sodium citrate takes care of that.
Okay.
And the climbing hook to snap onto the ladder track is arriving tomorrow at the P.O. box. So I got to go at the shop too and check what's going on. Okay, Lauren's got some oxalic acid.
Of course, Lauren's got some oxalic acid. Lauren's got everything.
Oxalic acid can be bought in the laundry aisle as iron out.
Yep. It most certainly can be bought in the iron aisle.
The sodium hydroxide will help to get the VSZ. That may be classified information, Tricky. I can ask you through email. Zero valence. Oh, zero valence. Valence state 0. Okay. Oh my goodness. And it's my brain is not working as well as it used to, which makes it hard to keep track of multiple things at the same time. So, anyhow, so as you can see, folks, we're working on numerous ways of dealing with the resin to gold problem. And we got some really smart people working on it. I expect to have several methods in a month or so that will work reasonably well, whichever one works best. For example, if we can elute the gold either through electroplating type elution or just straight elution, he gave me some advice on it, and we tried that. And then once he saw it run, he said you need to make a few changes there. And so hopefully we'll get that going here pretty well. He's trying, I guess that's acetic hydroxide, potassium chloride, and calcium chlorate. HCl. Okay. Oh my goodness. So let's say hopefully we'll have something here fairly soon. I know we got several people. I know Tricky Dicky really needs this. Acetylsalicylic acid. Really? Aspirin?
Why not? Aspirin does everything else.
Yep.
Okay.
And Javier down there in Colombia, Jason in Central America. Yeah. So, I'll say that's kind of what's going on here. Working ourselves pretty damn hard. Eva has really been pushing herself too. And so I'm happy to let the lab geeks and the tech geeks work on the problem while I work, simple. I go back to the Stone Age. Break rock, good, that I can handle. But Eva she's been toughing it out. And while my job has a lot of physical demands of one way, she's sitting out there on the surface. It's hot. And even with the canopy chair and a towel to give her shade, it's still quite unpleasant. And she's doing it, and I keep sending down bigger buckets down the High Line every weekend, and she keeps dragging them off of there.
I'm putting them on the carriage now.
Yeah. You
I'm
mean,
putting them on the ATV.
yeah,
Hello.
on the quad.
The quad.
So, say she's really been stepping up. Oh, I couldn't do it without her. I don't know if I'm going to be doing the sign language interpretation tonight. I agree, Shaggy. These guys are some pretty smart dudes. I may get the glory in terms of it's my channel and stuff, but I mean, between Lawrence and Tricky and Chris and Rock Butcher, you got some really smart, experienced, knowledgeable people here, much more than me. Okay. So I say they're kind of working on this, and I've got confidence that they're going to beat this thing into submission, and then I'll have several options that I can test and then present to the boss and say, okay, which way do you want to do it? I don't really care as long as I can get the gold out of the resin efficiently. My job right now is to get more gold into the resin, and that's where increasing the ore grades and tonnages come in. And to increase the tonnage, we got to increase the breaking of the rock. If we can do that, then a lot of things become possible that currently aren't. Yeah, Lawrence, let me know if you need something or whatever too. But that's breaking the rock is kind of my expertise. Anyhow, I see a silver hat, and I'm going to take
Hello.
tonight off on the
Oh, lovely. Well, then sit next to me and be a peanut.
peanut.
Yes, make comments from the peanut gallery.
Oh.
You can't just take off, okay?
I'm hungry.
And by the way, the goddess will attest that Professor Hardrock is very good at breaking things. Absolutely. He is stellar at breaking things.
It's my talent.
I am personally considering the option of banning him from the lab entirely, as in if he sets foot in the building, he dies.
I am pretty certain that if given the opportunity, I could break an anvil with a rubber mallet and a sandbox.
Lawrence, feel free to send it back for evaluation. I mean, or do whatever you're going to do with it. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, she can
I-
fire assay it.
I can actually fire assay this stuff pretty darn good now. On my lab report, yes, Professor Hardrock has halfway answered my plea for an actual furnace, as in, instead of this electric thing that I was kind of hoping would blow up when I did the last experiment in it, but sadly that did not happen. Instead, it now stays on constantly. As soon as you turn it on, the heating elements never stop. So I finally have more control over it, and that's a good thing because it's marginally increased my production capacity. And I'm leaving it broken the way it is, people, okay? You're welcome to send me advice on how to fix it, so if I ever decide to fix it before I send it into orbit or drop it down a mine shaft or do something else with it when I get real equipment, it would be nice, Yeah. Hi, Shaggy. I will tell you though, it's been interesting in the lab this week, and it was interesting out at the mine this week because yes, the goddess is getting stronger. Believe it or not, I do have muscles. Hopefully, they never get huge or look gross. But I do have muscles, and I have been using them. As you all know, Congress has passed the historic, unprecedented, oft desired, but never actually accomplished Inflation Reduction Act. Naturally, we can expect inflation to go through the roof and the rest of the economy to totally and completely suffer the consequences, but all of us are prepared for that, so that's fine. You know, I mean, that's just fine. Oh, man. Yeah, everything is good in Washington. Absolutely. This goes without saying. On another note, be advised that apparently the BLM has canceled a few more oil and gas leases, this time in Colorado. And be advised that, their website, the new, incredible, super state-of-the-art BLM website that superseded the LR2000, which absolutely sucked rocks, is like a zillion years behind, so don't even bother with it, okay? The website is ridiculous. What else is new? And no, the goddess will not use it because apparently they're now claiming you need an app so they can track you. No, thank you. The goddess does not approve of apps. At least, not those ones. A long extension cord and 1/8 of an ounce of silver fulmate. Yeah. I could get along with that idea, Kevin. I really could. But yeah, I can tell you, Professor Hardrock is a menace in the lab. He really is. It kind of makes me wonder what's going to happen if I ever really do upgrade and get my Jacob's ladder and my Van de Graaff generator, because I can pretty much guarantee I am not the one that would end up electrocuted.
Well, you might want to increase the life insurance.
I need to do that anyway. According to inflation, your life insurance plus about 50 cents will get me a Starbucks in a couple of years. We all know that. Meanwhile, in the mining world, BHP Group's annual profit jumps on higher commodity prices, and they declared a record dividend. Well, good for BHP. Interesting how this happens. BHP Group posted a 26% jump in annual profit and then declared a record dividend on strong commodity prices and record sales at its Western Australian iron ore operations, but warned of rising costs from a tight labor market through fiscal 2023. The largest miner by market value on Tuesday announced a final dividend of $1.75 a share. Whoa, good money. Marking a peak annual distribution of $3.25 per share at a time when miners have cut investor returns to contend with declining profits. The miner posted its highest profit since 2011, with underlying profit from continuing operations for the year ended June 30th rising to $21.32 billion from $16.99 billion a year earlier, beating a consensus estimate of $20.89 billion compiled by Vuma Financial. Prices of major commodities like copper have hovered near record highs, while coal prices have soared since Russia's invasion of Ukraine left potential buyers scrambling for alternatives. The miner's performance at its Western Australian iron ore operations also helped offset a drop in prices of the steel-making commodity from last year's record levels, as China's push to curb emissions and easing construction activity in the country's debt-laden property sector curtailed demand. We expect China to emerge as a source of stability for commodity demand in the year ahead, with policy support progressively taking hold, Chief Executive Mike Henry said. BHP also warned of a slowdown in advanced technology as monetary policy tightens, as well as ongoing geopolitical uncertainty and inflationary pressures. Labor constraints that have plagued production of miners world over will continue to put pressure on global and local supply chains, Henry said. Rival miner Rio Tinto reported a 29% drop in first half profit and more than halved its dividend in July, citing softening demand from China and supply chain snags. Oh, well, supply chain sags is going to be our excuse for the next decade or 3 or 4 when they're not using COVID or monkeypox as an excuse. Just so we all know.
Maybe
It
COVID
should,
bucks?
yeah, that too. It should be noted that um, the trial for spoofing for those former J.P. Morgan associates, including one of the biggest spoofers ever in human history, concluded. They were found innocent of RICO charges. Apparently, it's not racketeering or anything else. It's just spoofing and manipulating the precious metals markets for years. And the jury found the 3 defendants guilty of spoofing and manipulating the metals market for years. Now, some interesting things have come out of this trial. The fact that spoofing and manipulation of the paper market is absolutely a thing is now a matter of public record. Of course, it's been a matter of public record 2 or 3 times in the past, but it never hurts to get a little more matter of public record going on here. Number 2, they may actually pay a fine, and a couple of them may actually go to the slammer and then spend some time in Club Fed watching cable TV for a few years. That would be nice. But while Bloomberg and everyone else seem to think that this trial is a watershed event and proves that this activity is no longer going on and will not be going on, as usual, they're just covering for the actual criminals, because JP Morgan and the Bank of America are still controlling over 90% of the paper, gold, and silver market. JP Morgan and Bank of America are still actively spoofing said market and getting very, very big profits doing so. They have paid fines for this several times in the past. Now, here's an interesting comparison that came to mind. In the past, when multi-level marketing companies were actually found to be pyramid schemes, it's happened to a couple of them. They all are, okay, including Amway. They all are. When a couple of them were chosen to be fall guys and actually found to be pyramid schemes, they were fined, they were shut down, and the CEOs and persons that had been running the pyramid schemes were banned from participating in network marketing companies of any kind ever again. There have been a few people banned from ever working in big pharma again after it was found that they had engaged in long-term, cold-blooded, manipulative, and absolutely planned criminal activity, in addition to being fined and facing jail time. They were banned from ever working in their industry again. And yet, amazingly enough, and the goddess figures that banks must be the luckiest people in the world at this point. They must have superpowers even beyond those the goddess has. Because at this point, we now have multiple banks that have been conclusively proven over a period of decades to have defrauded millions of customers and criminally manipulated metals prices of all kinds, and the stock market as well. And yet, these banks are not banned from participating in COMEX or LME or any of the other metals exchanges. The people, the persons who have been found guilty of this and paid fines, many of them are still working for these banks and still working in this industry. So I figure that banks have secret superpowers along with very powerful friends, the big guy, in very powerful places, that they pay 10% to on a regular basis. The big guy, the one that's got the crackhead son that engages in interesting games with family members and is a drug addict. Not that big guy. Um, but it is interesting to note that these banks must have extremely powerful friends in extremely powerful places. Because despite multiple acts of criminality and malfeasance and 50 shades of fraud and fuckery happening in the financial world and in the LME and in the COMEX, the last time anybody took a fall for anything was when Lehman Brothers disappeared and Morgan Stanley disappeared. Since then, the only people that have taken a fall have been the 75 or so international financiers that committed suicide in various extraordinarily strange ways. And now and then, a bank will pay a multi-$100 million fine and go right back to committing the same crimes the very next day. And the people who are found guilty in a court of law, as happened with these three, usually don't land in jail. And when they get out of jail, they're allowed to go back to work for the banks again. One would think that Bloomberg and the rest of the media, which studiously ignored that entire trial, by the way, would ask the important questions here. But apparently, they all are complicit. And they're all profiting from defrauding everybody else. They're equal opportunity crooks, I will say that. I mean, they're defrauding the big guys now and then, but the little guys are bearing the brunt of the fraud as always. And it continues. It will continue until sound money makes a return to the world. And there are rumors that Pandaland is actually putting a stop date on the circulation, sale, and manipulation of paper gold certificates in China for next month. And it should be noted that BRICS is still talking about putting together a real money that is actually backed by precious metals, which would be a nice thing. It should be noted that Zimbabwe had such an amazing run selling their first gold coins as legal tender that they're now going to be making fractional gold coins. And they're shoring up their currency, which is a good thing, since, by the way, if you haven't seen the newest Zimbabwe note, it's very pretty. It's also worth 100 trillion Zimbabwe dollars. Yes, 100 trillion with a T. Yeah, I think they need sound money. I think we all need sound money. I think it's very, very, very important that we do everything we can to avoid the central bank digital currency trap and the fiat and get sound money. But that's just me, you know. Yeah, the CDC officially declared COVID was over. They're also officially now saying, without apologizing to anybody like us, of course, that the unvaccinated should be treated exactly the same way as the vaccinated. And they actually allowed a few studies to come out that proved that, yeah, lockdowns don't work and no, masks didn't work either. So, yeah, COVID's now a non-issue. They're trying with monkeypox. I will give them that now that they're spreading the story that a dog caught monkeypox from his owners. And even though they're doing nothing to curtail the types of activities that are causing monkeypox super spreaders and things of that nature to happen, yeah, they're working on the monkeypox angle now. I don't think it's going to go anywhere though. You know, yeah, 1 gazillion Zimbabwe dollar. I couldn't believe it. I saw the note and I was like, 100 trillion with a T. We had at one point a $10 trillion Zimbabwe note that we got in exchange for giving a guy a large bag of kettle corn when we were working at the Gem and Mineral Show. It was really cool. We gave it to a friend as a souvenir. you know. But yeah, we are in an interesting historic time. I'm sure everyone has noticed this. And the goddess is very, very worried about those yo-yos at the Bureau of Land Management. Okay. And the Forest Service by extension, because they're all run by yo-yos and eco-terrorists. Because if they can get away with making just canceling oil and gas leases stick, they can do the same thing to large mines. They can do the same thing to small mines. They can do the same thing to mines in general. And bearing in mind that these people actually deliberately want to break things. I know, everyone says that that is just the tinfoil hat talking, that of course the government doesn't want to deliberately break things. Well, for a group of people that doesn't deliberately want to break things, they currently have a 100% success rate at doing so, which is a little bit ominous because anytime the government's 100% successful at something, that is usually the thing they actually want to do. The other thing that I had a discussion about with somebody online was, what is the undeclared war? Currently, with the Inflation Reduction Act, we have declared war on inflation. We have declared war on climate change. A two-fronted war on two things that absolutely cannot be fixed in any reasonable manner, and anyone with more sense than God gave a darn knob knows this. What's the real goal? The real goal is not either of those things, because all of the policies in this legislation will make those things worse. So, what's the real goal? And then the other question is, somebody was saying online, well, of course they don't want to hurt us. Of course they want to make things better. We elected them. They work for us. And I'm like, yeah. If you actually believe these yo-yos work for you, then I really, really can't help you very much. Because they are definitely making whoever they work for very happy. Since they are making us extraordinarily unhappy and are continuing to do so with great alacrity and severe dedication to the purpose, well, that's a pretty good indicator they don't work for us. Just saying. Just saying. They do not work for us. What is going on with metals is truly an indicator of this. Because if we did not have an extraordinarily manipulated market, if metals had their true discovery based on what they actually cost to produce and their scarcity and everything else, we would indeed already be looking at $2,500 gold or $3,000 gold. We would indeed already be looking at about $60 an ounce silver. I'm pretty sure that silver's initial price discovery would be about 60. However, I was explaining this to somebody the other day. They were saying, but why is the market manipulated? Well, because they can get away with it. Consider this theory, okay? First of all, we have something with gold and silver that we do not have with any other product. We have a spot price. We can look it up and say, okay, we have a spot price. That's what this shit is worth per ounce, okay? Now, wherever you are, what a loaf of bread costs. Maybe where you are, a loaf of bread, store brand, costs $2. Where I am, a loaf of store brand costs about $25. Where those poor people in Canada are, a loaf of store brand probably costs about $3.50 Canadian. Don't know, haven't set foot in a Canadian supermarket, but their prices are insane up there, okay? We don't have a spot price for a loaf of bread because 19,000 things go into a loaf of bread and there's no real reason to. but you don't see much manipulation in the price of grains or the commodities attached to that loaf of bread, because that is very close to the people. That impinges on your consciousness every time you go to the grocery store and you need to buy a loaf of bread. So if you start playing with that price and all of a sudden people find out that their loaf of bread only costs 2.5 cents to produce, but they're now paying $1.75 for it, people get pissed off. And pissed off people tend to do things that are very antisocial, that the goddess most definitely frowns on. The goddess does not approve of antisocial behavior. Okay? And just to make it clear, no antisocial behavior. The goddess doesn't approve of that, generally speaking. It's a little easier to manipulate the price of something that's a little further away from you. But the thing is, the closer a commodity is to your life, and the more that commodity is used by you in a form you recognize, the less likely that price is going to be artificially jacked around. For most people, gold, silver, platinum, copper, etc., are not something that are a part of your everyday life. Yeah, you buy a sterling silver necklace for your girlfriend or your wife on Valentine's Day, or your wife buys you a gold watch for your anniversary, or your boss gives you a gold money clip when you retire after 20 years of kissing their butt. For most people, the only place that precious metals directly intersect with their life is if you're a coin collector, and then yes, you expect to pay a high price for good coins. Or if you're buying jewelry, and everyone knows that jewelry is going to be expensive because a lot of art and craft goes into jewelry, and actually people get suspicious if they see a low price on jewelry because it may be fake. So on one hand, you've got this cognitive dissonance going on, because on one hand you have the only places where people normally get exposed to and interact with these metals are in atmospheres where you expect high prices, you expect luxury, you expect scarcity, you expect collectible things. On the other hand, you have silver stackers on Wall Street Silver, like yours truly, and gold stackers and other people like that. And people new to stacking that are saying, but I'm just buying a generic round. It's not a collectible coin, it's not anything special. So, and the spot price is $20.22 as of closing today. Why am I paying $26? So, it's hard to explain to people that they're not seeing everything that goes into this. When people buy a $1.25 loaf of bread, they pretty much assume, they know, if they've ever done any baking, that they could bake it at home for 18 cents. But they also know that it would take a half an hour of their time, as in hands-on, and well, if your time is worth $23 an hour, then it's much cheaper to buy the $1.25 store bread. They figure $1.25 probably more than covers the cost over and above the 18 cents that it takes to produce these things. People don't see that with silver and gold. They look at silver and they say, $20 an ounce? How can a miner even mine it at that? I spend so much time explaining to people how that works because they don't get it. But yes, we have an extremely manipulated market, and they have many reasons to keep that price artificially low. First of all, they don't want people thinking of it as something of value, as money, as a store of wealth, as a hedge against inflation. As long as they can keep the price low, then people look at it from an investor mindset and say, well, if inflation is running 18% in my household and silver is losing money, then it's not a hedge against inflation. That means all that silver is still available for industrial use. And they also know that they need a shit ton of this stuff for industrial use because the Great Green Agenda. There's not enough metal in all of planet Earth to fulfill the Great Green Agenda, so don't even go there. But they're going to try it. Oh, yeah. They want us all living in the dark and choosing between heating and eating, and when we do eat, we will eat sea bugs. That's pretty much the plan here. But they need the price kept low. They need the price kept low because they know that if they want to push this demand, they have to be able to subsidize this demand, and they have to be able to walk that tightrope and show people that, yes, your solar panels will be free electric power. They're not, but, that's just the way people think. And yeah, market makers exist and they work off charts, and they are the market, Mr. Lodak. I wish to heaven's sakes that more people understood charts the way you do. Hey, Arizona prepper. Hey, Bear.
Yeah.
The Macho Taco from Arizona's here. I hope my cats are all right, dude.
I already flipped him off once.
Oh, Paul, I'm glad you liked your silver. That is cool. He said he panned, Paul says he panned his first Golden Smile Electrum. It's kind of greenish. What color is copper? Copper can be green. Copper can actually be blue as well. Turquoise and malachite are both forms of copper, just so you know.
In metallic state, it's kind of a reddish color.
In metallic state, copper is a reddish color. I've seen some of that. It's beautiful. I love native copper. One of my favorite things. But that's the thing is well, Shaggy, I ain't going to become no lawyer. Okay? The goddess would rather open a mega church and start her own religion than become a lawyer. Because actually being a televangelist is slightly, marginally more, more moral than a lawyer. Hey, Lawrence. Yeah, Arizona Prepper's down in your part of the woods. Good dude, too. But anyway, yes, we have a manipulated market, which is why the goddess is once again saying, when you see that dip, back up the freaking truck, load up with the gold and the silver. Shaggy, I can tell you right now, we had a mouse in the house once. Adora hunted that puppy down, and absolutely, she hunted down that mouse, and that was it. Pixel was sitting there one day in all his fat feline pulchritude, and the mouse ran right past him, and Pixel's going, that was it. Pixel is not, Pixel doesn't do hunting things, Adora does. Adora is a good girl on that one. But Pixel don't do hunting things. Now, when you see gold and silver, this is the time when dollar cost averaging is your best friend. Professor Hardrock and I go wandering down to the local coin shop every single week with a percentage of our admittedly meager income, and we buy a few little things, and they come home. And we're going to refurbish a very nice canoe, so when the IRS agents start coming around, we can tell them that we went fishing in our canoe, and unfortunately, we had a tragic boating accident. I mean, that's what happens when you use the silver as ballast, by the way. Don't ever use silver as ballast in your boat, because when you have an inevitable boating accident, it's going to be real hard to get your silver back. What can I say? And also, back up the truck on meat. The things I'm hearing from inside the meat industry are very Scary. They are making the goddess extremely unhappy here. Sounds good to me, Mr. Lodak. When I get back in the market, you are the first person I'm going to talk to. At the moment, the goddess is staying out of the market because she figures that in a sane world, at some point, the stock market is going to go through a correction. Now, it's probably never going to correct to reality, but it's going to correct to something closer to reality than it is now. At which time, the goddess will assess her position and decide what's worth investing in. Until then, the goddess is staying out of the market. I still haven't managed to get my crypto out of Coinbase. I really do have to get around to doing that, but I keep forgetting because they're so annoying and they want all this paperwork and stuff, you know. I'm sorry. If I wanted to be treated like I was at a bank, I would have been at a bank. Speaking of banks, I have seen confirmation from some of our dear friends across the pond. Apparently, Lloyd's of London, along with a few other banks, have recently changed their terms of service. Their customers are finding out the hard way that if they want to withdraw more than £1,000 or £2,000 in cash from their bank, they have to answer a whole lot of questions, and they may be subject to a waiting period. They may be denied it entirely. And a lot of people have discovered that they can no longer get as much out of their ATMs as they used to. And you know, when you read the fine print on their banking contracts over there, wow, awfully similar to the fine print on our banking contracts over here from our big guys that say, well, you know, once you deposit it, it's ours to play with. So, you know, it's not your money anymore anyway. The Chinese and the Sri Lankans and the Dutch and the Germans and the British are now discovering this. And more than a few Americans may discover it in relatively short order. This is why one should not keep money in big banks. Our money, such as it is in an in-state only local bank. And you believe you me, I read those terms and the fine print with a fine-tooth comb before we put the money in. Because the banks are part and parcel of the massive manipulation system that is keeping the great ship USS Greenback floating at the moment. I will say that some people have more faith in US fiat currency than they do in any god or religion, which is quite fascinating since our fiat currency is nothing but a debt instrument that as of August 15th, 1971, in a strictly temporary measure that would not change life for the American people at all, according to Richard Milhous Nixon, is no longer connected to a real asset. So, in one fell swoop, Nixon destroyed what was left of our economy and also is now teaching Americans the government meaning of the word temporary. Because here we are 51 years later, still under this temporary edict, as we all know. You know, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government thing. Bye-bye.
Your turn, Bear. Wake up and go talk to your people.
Oh.
The people want you.
Oh.
Yeah, Parrish is hanging out there.
Yeah, I know. You didn't see me giving him the finger?
Well, of course you were. Because you're wooed. You are wooed. You are really wooed.
Oh,
WB Keith?
one other thing, believe it or not, down at the tire store, they have a refrigerator with farm fresh local eggs in it. $3.50 a dozen with an honor box. Yes, I put the money in the honor box and I got my damn dates.
Oh, welcome back. Okay.
Bet I got my eggs. Ooh, yeah.
Anyhow, so yeah, I'm a little sleepy. It's been, well, let's see, like Friday, get up at 8, 7 or 8, get some stuff done, get out of town by 11, get out to the mine after having the oil leak and everything, get all that stuff done. Let's say by 8 o'clock, we still hadn't mined any ore yet. I think I was mining some. Were we mining waste that evening?
Just a little.
Just a little, yeah, cleaning up some waste there. And then as Saturday, we did a pretty good job moving stuff on Saturday. See, again, I was up at 7, got done about 8 o'clock. Sunday, fairly similar. So, we work, like 10, 12-hour days. Whine, whine, snivel, snivel. Boy, it sounds like you heard that before, Tom. And so usually we were coming back on Sundays. And then today, is kind of a slack day, get this and that and the other done. I'd usually take a nap in the afternoon before the thing, but not today. So while she was doing her report, I was doing a little napping. Anyhow, so I was really, really happy with how well that pulley system worked on the hoist. Um, we got, let's see, one, two, and we had three things that we were running out of. We were running out of ladder track, we were running out of cable, and pretty soon we're going to be running out of extension cord. If you saw another thing, you can see the extension cords at the bottom of the ladder track right now. Well, that's all the extension cord. That's 100 feet from the generator. Now, in the next couple weekends, we're going to actually start having to move the generator up the hill a little. But those are the issues that we can see, besides just dealing with hard spots in an efficient manner. And I need to get where's my thing here? I need to get some bits over to Lauren's house and see if we can put sharper edges on them. Bits and draw plate to Lawrence. So we need to get we shall see what happens there. But those are kind of the bottlenecks there. if we can increase production dramatically, we can increase transportation dramatically easily. That's already planned for. Um, we can theoretically crush more ore and treat more ore at the mill without complicating just more work. But yeah, that's good, Chris. And it looks like they're making a lot of progress on the resin recovery bit. So I think everything's coming into plan. But boy, Eve and I are really working our butts off here. I mean, on her it looks good, but on me it just looks stick figure. It's horrible. But anyhow, and so that's basically where we're at. But the we were running out of cable on that uh, hoist, and now that's fixed for probably the season. We'll have to see um, how fast we advance. But I mean, we're down at 20 feet right now from surface, and so another 10 weeks at 2 feet a week.
We'll be 40 feet down. We'll hit 40 foot.
Yeah. So that's when we're going to start running into an issue with the hoist cable. And probably the next thing will be to just re-spool the cable with a smaller diameter cable, get some higher strength, smaller diameter, and that'll allow us to get more capacity on that spool. But we shall see what we shall see. Hopefully that'll get us through the season. It also depends on, how big the vein gets, and we can go. We can only do so much. Well, unfortunately, you're correct. I say if we can just get a couple of milestones dealt with, and I think we'll be on more of a cruise. And we're making progress there. So nice to have the mill expansion done, so I'm cruising there. And deal with hard spots, and then we'll be kind of cruising there. I also want to see both with the Hilti and with the Bosch, can I make or modify a chisel bit to where it will have a greater ability to penetrate? Because what happens is the chisel bit starts out perfectly. Where are we? There we go. And you have a tip like this, and it penetrates pretty well and it wedges pretty well. But after a fairly short period of time, it turns into something more like a crayon. And that doesn't bite nearly as well. It doesn't wedge, especially at the initial point of contact, nearly as well. And so it just becomes about as efficient as a dull knife at cutting. And so you could put another pulley on there and probably double shiv it, one at the bottom, two at the top, and get something like that. I'm sure there's ways to do it, but every time you increase the depth and the speed, you also increase the strain on the winch. Comes a time where you just need a bigger winch. We shall see what we shall see. And yeah, I think we're making good progress. SRO. Is that the resin that you've got? So I say I'm pretty happy with everything. If we can get that grade up on the ore and the tonnage up, then things will be nice. Once we get into technical profitability, where our gold recovered equals or exceeds the expenses outgoing, I'll be very pleased, and we'll see how fast we may already be there because the volume has gone up, and I believe the grade has gone up too, but we shall see. By SRO, what do you mean, Tricky? I don't get the acronym there. Super rich ore. Okay. Yeah, we don't have any super rich ore that we've run into yet. We've actually been technically prod ore. If you can't make profit on it, it's not ore. And what we've been digging through is not profitable. We may be into profit now, but we shall see. It's getting close. And we'll see whether it's covering expenses here fairly shortly. If we can do that before end of August, I'll be pretty happy. And then when we get a good way of stripping it out of the resin, one way or another, we'll be in good shape. When will you be putting Barrett Gold out of business? Absolutely never, because that would be too much work. Now, you see me exerting myself, but that's because I'm enjoying it. Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm enjoying it. But big business is a totally different kind of work. I don't like it. I don't like playing those games. I don't mind going on trips and leading and, staying in nice hotels and eating good food. But yeah, ain't my thing. So
Nobody in their right mind would want that job.
I say it's one of those things that I enjoy what I'm doing. Yeah, 0.1% is pretty good, Tricky Dicky. Yep. We may hit pockets like that. I don't know. I'm sure if we do, it's going to be in coarse gold too. So there's going to be a lot of coarse gold there if it was that rich. So that's where that sluice may come in handy. Oh, but it has been an interesting challenge. And again, we got another little complication that showed up that we'll discuss a bit next week once we've got everything under control. You may not see it too much, but a lot of the videos is after I figured out what I did wrong and got it tweaked, then I'll go and make a video. So I was shocked that pulley thing worked as well as it did. I was afraid it was going to try and the cable underneath is going to try and lift the carriage off the track. No, didn't seem to have much tendency to do that at all. I think the weight of the cable just tends to hold it down. But this winter, I plan on taking the head frame back and working on it to get the bull wheel up a little higher so that we can get that carriage out of our way more so that it's easier to climb in and out of the shaft. Again, that's not critical, but it would be nice. Just like it'd be nice to have my Hilti back. We shall see when that shows up. That's going to be expensive. Over $500 for the repair cost. So we shall see. Well, that's what we call vacation around here. Paul, that's a lot of work, isn't it? That is one of the things that is amazingly difficult, is to pulverize ore by hand. that just takes more effort than you think it ought to. So that's where we're at. And aside from that, I'd say the milling seems to be going pretty routine. Although I'm going to have to get that Stutenroth hard-faced here shortly, and the RC46, I'll need a spare, another jaw plate hard-faced on that. And we'll kind of go from there. Let's see. Can't think of anything else. Does anyone have any questions, comments, suggestions, etc., etc.? Juicy rumors. One thing, I have a question. Somebody told me this weekend that all the water regulations are in Southern California are dependent on the water in Lake Mead. The implication was that the Bureau of Reclamation may be holding back water further upstream in order to keep the water level at Lake Mead dropping to where then they can declare an emergency and take some dramatic action. I haven't got any confirmation or anything like that. So if anyone does, I'd appreciate the input. No Goldstream. He's here between here and Minnesota somewhere. I'm not sure if he's on the way or if he's in Minnesota right now with his friend. The amount of work it takes to get 1 ounce of gold like this is not worth it. Yep. It can be a lot of work. On the other hand, I don't need to go to the gym.
It's totally worth it.
You're actually here, Chris? Wow, sweet. But Eva enjoys it out there, and I like the camping and stuff too.
It's totally worth it.
But yeah,
I mean, with the price of gold at $1,800 an ounce.
Yeah, I expect it to go up too.
If you can get it for $900 in labor of your time and have fun, you've made a $900 profit and had fun.
Yep. So we shall see what we shall see. Oh, I also had something very interesting happen this weekend. I was on the quad driving down the access road to the claim, and I came across 3 Shasta Diet Cola cans that are crumpled in the way we normally do. Basically squeeze in the middle so the ends can fold down. And there was also a bottle that was, it used to have like calcium carbonate tablets, Tums, in it, but I put something else in there, and they were laying on the road. And I'm like, well, that's odd. Now, I can't for sure tell you that they were actually in the path, but as I recall, they were laying right in the travel path, and they weren't run over, and I'm pretty sure they weren't in the trailer on the way up this trip. And I honestly have no idea how they got there, but I know they were ours. So this is quite perplexing. How did they get there? I don't know. Well, the thing is, if they were sitting on the bumper on the way out last week, then how come we didn't see them on the way in this trip, and how come we didn't run over them? No, that's because that's what we have for access to get the buckets down off of the hill. The road up there is kind of narrow. Dave, if you're asking me that, it's confidential information. I cannot tell you. Not enough to pay the bills at this point. We're working on it. But anyhow, fell out last year. That would be the logical explanation. Didn't the red truck went by yesterday too,
Yes.
didn't it? And
The
the
red truck went by and the white SUV went by.
was that before or after I found those things?
That was before.
That was before. So we had another couple of trucks drove out that road. I drove in and never saw them.
And they're the
Nothing
kind of
had gotten
people that
run
would pick them
over.
up.
And that is just weird. But weird stuff happens. Fell out on the way in? Possible? I have no clue, Chris. It really just doesn't seem to make any sense. Again, as far as I know, they weren't anywhere they could fall out on the way in. On the trailer, all I have on the way in is the quad, 60 buckets, and 2 gas cans. That's it. Everything else is in the camper. And we never stopped there. So the camper door didn't come open. And I don't recall seeing them on the
We
road.
did stop there.
Huh?
On the way in, we did stop there.
We did stop there to do what?
Yeah, because that's when I told you about the claim stake.
No. That was a
was last week,
lot
that's
further.
right.
No, that was a lot further down the road. Okay. It's not within a quarter mile of where I found them. Yeah. And so I really don't know, because I'm just looking at this going, I know those are ours because the stuff in that Tums bottle is definitive. It's not Tums. The 3 soda cans, Shasta, Diet Cola, what are the odds? Eva, that's all she drinks, And so I have no idea how they got there. Honest to goodness. I wish I'd have thought more carefully to put in my mind exactly where they were and maybe put a little monument there so I could relocate it. There's no way it could have gotten anywhere close to there outside the camper, because we've already gone 15 miles off road. Well, not 15. Yeah. Actually about 15 miles. The road through the farms, that's about 8 miles, isn't it?
Yep.
I know it takes us 45 minutes on unpaved roads to get from the pavement to the mine, and this was like 1 or 2 minutes from the mine. This is within a quarter mile of the mine was where it was sitting. That is just bizarre. And we didn't stop, we didn't slow down, nothing. Just bizarre. So I have no idea. I do not discount the possibility of weird intervention sort of thing, but it's just, wait a minute. If it was just the cans,
If it was just the cans, it could have been removed.
I'd be a lot less. Well, they were also very close together. There were like 3 cans and this Tums bottle like within 10, 15 feet, all in a line. Ding, 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 ding. So it was, they all theoretically hit the ground at the same time. Nobody ran them over in a week, including us on the way in, who didn't see them on the way in. And I'm watching that road very carefully to try and dodge any rocks or whatever.
And I don't miss stuff.
Yep. Did it come from the storm? No. There's a gully between where we camp and where The road is there, so it couldn't have blown over from the thing. On top of the camper, no, that ain't gonna happen, Chris. The camper is pure flat up there, and we never put anything on top of the camper. And I didn't deal with this, the stuff in the Tums Bottle. I didn't even know we had it this trip. Okay, just really, really perplexing, bizarre. I haven't the faintest idea. But you know what? There's a lot of things in this world I don't know.
I'm telling you, I think it was raccoons.
She thinks it was raccoons that grabbed 3 soda cans and 1 Tums bottle filled with a toxic, well, not toxic, but plaster, and hauled it a quarter mile and piled them all up in the road. Yep.
You never know with raccoons, okay?
Lars says space raccoons.
I can get along with that.
There's no spots they could escape in the side boxes, Chris. They wouldn't have been in the side boxes either. They're never placed in the side boxes. At least the cans aren't. So I don't know. In terms of a premonition, yeah, I could go with that. Hole in the floor of the camper. Absolutely not. Boogeyman, I'm going with that. Would it have been under the hood for any reason? Nope, Chris. Yeah. That's it. I'm like, what the hell? The logical thing is they fell out last trip somehow. But where they went, I don't know. Now, I do know.
I can tell you right now that the red truck people would have picked them up and put them in a pile on the side of the road or put them in our camping area because they know us.
Yeah. I did lose some aluminum cans last trip. They were in a bucket of ore in the back of the quad. They were marking that bucket as being different material. That was the sample from the back. And I believe it, Lars. I don't think there was the Tums bottle with them, but it's possible.
Yeah, but it couldn't have landed down on the road. Not from that distance.
Well, it would have had to bounce up out of the rack on the four-wheeler, from out of the bucket, in the rack of the four-wheeler, up in the air, clear the rack, and it's right against the tailgate, so it can't just come up and go over the back like that. I mean, it would have to go an additional 2 feet in the air, at least. And if they just fell off to the side, you wouldn't think they would all fall out that quickly together. I don't know, just really weird. But, it seemed kind of spooky to me. And I'm convinced spooky stuff does happen. Occasionally, weird things happen that I just don't think was possible without some weird intervention. Eva hasn't seen anybody. I mean, the traffic out there is almost non-existent. We went out there Friday, got there 1:30, no vehicles all day. Saturday, 2 vehicles. The red truck that's associated with something further up the road, because we see them on a regular basis, and a white SUV. Sunday, we saw no vehicles at all. So 2 vehicles in 3 days, which is fairly common. Actually, that's kind of busy out there. And Eva is so good, her eyesight's so good, she can spot a claim stake at 1,500 feet.
I can spot a claim stake at about 2,000 feet.
Yeah. That is, that's the kind of stuff, Paul. Do you believe in Bigfoot? I don't believe or disbelieve in Bigfoot. I believe it's a possibility. I'm surprised nobody has shot one yet if they really do exist.
Well, we don't have any Bigfoot there. I have
Um,
found no scat and seen no footprints.
okay, she says she's seen no scatter footprints. She's seen bear scat, but it's a two-legged kind of bear. Um, I say it's very, very light travel there. So I believe that she would have been able to tell if there was somebody in that valley, unless it was like special forces out there deliberately surveilling us. I mean, without that level of effort to go undetected,
Sound really carries.
I think it would have been easily detected. So I say I really don't know.
And with other things I have seen, I am being very observant.
Yeah, yeah, and she was a little especially alert this weekend, looking around because she saw some changes that she's like, what's doing that? This is before I ran into those things. But yeah, it's like just one of those weird things. So I've had other stuff happen that I can't explain. Other things is like, what the hell happened? And then later on, it's like, oh, there it is. Now I understand. Chupacabra? Well, you can't disprove it by me, but yeah. Interred. Okay. So I believe you're talking about ghosts. I thought you said interested. Um, any ghosts out there, little one?
Um, a few passing every once in a while, but nothing that lives there permanently.
She says a few passing every once in a while, but none that live there personally.
And not all that much in the way of larger wildlife.
Yeah, we don't have much.
Larger wildlife wanders through.
Yeah, we don't have much deer. We've seen a few deer, no elk. I did hear coyotes for the first time out there. Was that Sunday morning?
Yeah.
I think it was Sunday morning. They didn't sound like the coyotes down in Tucson. They were a higher pitched, but it was a squeaky, yelping sort of sound. It sounded like coyotes, but not the same lingo as the ones down in Arizona. Possibly Goldstream. Don't know. Fox? I don't know. I've never heard foxes before.
No, it probably wasn't a fox.
Eva doesn't seem to think so. I'm not sure why, and I can't.
Because we don't have that many foxes in that area.
Well, I can't recall for sure how many voices I was hearing. I think it was more than one, but I don't know. High pitched yelps, absolutely. Yeah, Paul. Let's say I've seen weird stuff happen. High pitched yelps could be, David. Don't know. They do have fox up here. Children of the corn, no more like children of the sagebrush and juniper. No corn up there. Do you reply to the imaginary voices? The yelping I didn't interpret as voices, so I didn't try saying anything. I haven't heard any voices per se that I can recall. I remember one time something happened, and I mean, somebody did something, and I literally saw, I don't know if you've seen a fault light on a Caterpillar instrument panel. I literally saw, clear as day, a fault light, red light, ning, 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 ning. And it's like, danger, danger, danger. Yeah. You know, Paul says Children of the Corn like Shasta Cola. Okay. Tommy says hitchhike. David says hitchhiking Tommy knockers. I'm sorry, I don't think what's his name? This is the guy who wrote those, Stephen King. Stephen King doesn't seem to write good enough novels for me.
Well, I mean, the original Tommy knockers were mining. They were associated with mining.
I don't know. I know that Stephen Kuntz, he writes.
Dean Koontz.
Dean Koontz. He writes pretty good books. Yeah, Goldstream.
Dean Koontz is better than Stephen King.
The Dark Tower series was interesting. Maybe the books were. Eva got very annoyed when they rearranged that for the movies.
I did not see anything movie related about the Dark Tower. I refuse to see it. It is not in my worldview. The books were amazing.
Yeah.
And Stephen King sucks rocks.
Yes, Chris. Was it a movie or a series?
A movie, The Gunslinger.
A movie, The Gunslinger.
They're either making it or they've made it. They cast Idris Elba as the Gunslinger. Now, mind you, I love Idris Elba, but Idris Elba is not the Gunslinger.
Game cameras. Now that would be interesting. I like that. Let's see.
Trail cameras.
Yeah, that's what he was. Gunslinger movie, and there's Gunslinger series, but anyhow. Gunslingers. Yes. Well, let's see. That's a Western.
Yeah, they were casting Idris Elba.
56.
No, that would be the Western. That would not be the books.
Yeah, it was made in 2010, Chris. Yep, with Idris Elba as playing the lead.
And no, Idris Elba is not the Gunslinger.
I wouldn't know, Paul. Would sound plausible, but you could also use image intensifying, although that's not the cheap way to do it. But yeah, I don't know.
Oh, wow.
I'm interested in unexplainable phenomena I can repeat and document. This doesn't seem terribly repeatable.
Speaking of which, I want to go down the shelf and visit those, down the shaft and visit those guys next week.
Okay. Compressed sensing. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Chris. But yeah, trail cams is not bad. Somebody was up at the mine in the when we were gone, and had moved some minor stuff around. And it looked to me like probably just a hunter perched up there to keep an eye on the valley below. That's my guess, but I don't know. They didn't seem to disturb anything deliberately or damage anything, so I don't care. It's public property up there. We don't have a fence around it, so what the hell? And I don't know. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't prove anything, Paul. Of course, one possibility is, of course, that the trail cameras, uh, are simply ineffective because as things move around, they flash. I don't know. Yeah, Lars, but the way my memory's working, I'd forget where I put it, and then bad things would happen. Yeah, that would not be a good day. Trust me. Anyhow, uh, so that's basically what's going on here. And I did get a safety belt from um, Lauren to use this weekend, which I used. Um, and next time I'll have an easier hook to use than the one that comes on. Boy, those hooks are a pain in the butt to use, Lauren. I mean, I know they're super strong and they're, uh, impossible to accidentally open and this and that. But gosh, being able to use the hook would be kind of useful too. Probably not, Chris. I agree. So far, I'd say there's very little signs of anything, but then once you've seen signs, then by then you've got a problem. This is really not much traffic at all. It's amazing. No, Shaggy, a safety strap that they use for climbing and stuff is got specific hooks on it that have a double latch and they're kind of stiff. I mean, I'm sure these things could use a little lubrication too. That allows you to hook it up, and it's not going to come unhooked. I tried, Lauren. I tried to be safe. Yeah, so as I'm getting it's like a giant carabiner sort of thing, so that I can hang it on easy. Let's see. Some armor rangers were looking at one a mile away. The ranger waved his hand in the dark, and it looked right at him. Possible. That kind of resolution is observed in other creatures, although at night I don't know. Yeah, I say we'll get her whittled out all the little details and stuff, but it's fine. I've been on ladders so much that I just feel safe, and it's like, I'm not. I don't think I'm that heavy, Polka Face. Um, I agree, Shaggy. At least in my lifetime or by me, I know that's the truth. Um, the carabiners and stuff for climbing are usually about a 3,000-pound breaking strength. The particular safety strap that Lauren gave me has some sort of arresting device. I'm guessing it's something like the strap is folded and then stitched together. But anyhow, it'll take the impact of a fall and stretch it out so that it's much less injurious. And first of all, if I'm strapped to a ladder track right next to me, the most I can fall is 1.5 feet before hitting the end. That with a rappelling harness, that should be okay. uh, I don't think it's a spring, David. It doesn't feel like a spring at all. It feels much more compact and light than that. And that's just my guess that's how they do it. The idea is something that fails in a limited way while absorbing shock while retaining its ultimate strength. And that's one thing that just came to my mind. Just stitch folds of strap together, and the this is not, I mean, this is that big, literally. That's all it is. And so it's got to be extremely simple and extremely light. And that was just my best guess as to what they've got in there. But I really have no idea. I'm not going to take it apart. But do you know what the brand name was on that, Lauren? And what the heck was that? Oh, okay. I thought it said California. Woman killed in apparent alligator attack in South Carolina. Yeah, that can happen in South Carolina. Been too long? It's only that long. What is MSA? MSA Fall Restore. Lots of straps. Self-retracting lifeline. 310-pound capacity. That's a spool type. $300. Self-retracting, no. MSA fall arrestor. I don't know. No, that's something else. That's got some kind of clutch in it. Okay. No, that's actually for a cable. Yeah, if you're going up and down and you've got a guy cable near you that you can hook onto it. Yeah. And harness kits. That looks like it might have something similar. Let's see. What do we got here? Come on. No. Close. Roofer's fall protection kit. Let's see. It's got a weird looking rope there. Okay, where's the more details? See full product details. 3-foot shock absorbing lanyard. Okay. That's what I probably ought to go. Shock absorbing lanyard. Okay, close that. Shock absorbing lanyard. These are more like stretch. Oh, there's one that looks very, very similar. It's got a shock pack. Yep. Anchorage end connection. Color, hardware, material, harness connection size, harness end connection, weight capacity.
Oh, that's lovely.
RFID equipped. No. Okay. Visual load indicator, shock absorbing type. It's got a shock pack.
Oh, that's just going to make life even worse.
What is a shock pack? It's Granger. Shock pack. Nylon with shock pack. Polyester with shock pack. Oh, arc flash rated shock absorbing lanyards. Yeah. Okay, I don't have to worry about that. Okay. So anyhow, it's a shock pack, whatever the heck that is, if anyone knows. Let's see.
Well, things are going to get worse.
Yeah, Lars, that'll work. I hope you landed well, Shaggy. Well, normally poker face, but I'm on I'm wearing a rappelling harness, and I'll be laying on a ladder. Unless I'm unconscious and Eva doesn't notice, and I'm sure I will yelp something before losing consciousness. Looking to have a meet. What are the chances? You coming anywhere near Helena, Montana, Fritz? Yeah, I say it's one of those things. I'm sure is a single use option. Just some kind of.
Well,
I can't take you to the mine or the mill because I don't have permission. It's kind of confidential. We could certainly get together for a few hours and talk about some stuff or whatever. Yeah, you're correct, Lawrence. That's a single use option, I'm sure.
well,
But anyhow, yeah, right now, weekends we're out in the field. Weekdays we're usually here, although that may change on Mondays. But yeah, let me know when a good general time might be, and we can talk about it. Do you have my email address? I'm gonna put it right here. Hardrock you at outlook.com. You only broke 21 bones, huh? Well, that's what you call an Evel Knievel landing. There, Fritz, if you send me an email at that address, we can discuss it in more detail. But sure. Can you bring your gold one? Certainly, Fritz. Surprisingly, your MSTAR refresher never calls out fall protection, huh? Yeah. They forget the stuff that usually gets people hurt. Yeah, I don't know where we could try that gold monster. There's lots of good places around here, but I'd like to
maybe up on the scratch
like
gravel?
to talk to Jim. Yeah, somewhere around the scratch gravels would probably work, but it'd have to be someplace that's public land and isn't claimed. So I'm not sure. You made my day putting my 2.5-year-old to bed. You're in Vail? Oh, really? Yeah, we used to live in Tucson. We make sure that we communicate exactly when and this and that and the other so that, if you're going to make a long trip like that, you need to make sure that you wind up here and everything is fine. And of course you do, Lawrence. It's a 3-dimensional puzzle down there. Well, now that was a dirty landing, but a good landing there, David. Yeah, exactly, Lawrence. Just don't fall. And Eva's, she hasn't worked enough on ladders and stuff to understand that safety equipment can also get you hurt depending on the situation. And when you're working in confined areas and ladders and stuff, you don't want anything that can tangle you, trip you, or anything like that. But too late, Fritz. I'm getting too old for that. Plus, if you go back a few months, you'll find out about the horrible surgical complication. uh, uh, yeah, we try and focus on real serious stuff, but on a micro scale, as opposed to just prospecting. It's like we want to make money. We got, I don't know how many uh, um, View from the Penthouses have you been watching? Is this your first night? Uh, Figures real miners know it's not the fall that gets you, it's the sudden stop at the end, or the timber and boulders you pull down on top of you. Well, if it's a bit deep shaft, quite often you just get hung up in the steel, or at least parts of you do. You know, you rarely make it to the bottom of 1,000-foot shaft. You know, you're just bouncing off the walls, smashing into the steel. It gets ugly real fast. I've done a little shaft work, but at the bottom of the shaft. So it's not like I had a whole lot, but I only had tens of feet beneath me. But it was kind of cool. Yeah, same old stuff, Lars. Yeah, it surprised Eva that I wasn't wearing a safety harness all the time towards the initial phases, but man, it's like working on a roof. You know, you don't want to trip. As long as you remember where the edge is and you don't do something stupid, and it's not steep, not a problem. I mean, if Arizona Prepper's here, I've worked on quite a few roofs with him. And over in Arizona, they're quite often flat roofs and also quite often have a parapet wall around them. Do I still get a thrill when I see gold in the pen? Depends on how much gold. Right now, it's the beads. Oh, I understand, Fritz, but yes, I don't know, what was it? It was what, March? We had the horrible complication. uh, we had some fun with that one. I'm not half the man I used to be. At least that's what she says. But anyhow, yeah, always be happy to answer questions or anything.
Oh, you're the one that keeps having these psychosomatic ideas that your blood tests are not accurate.
When Eva, shows me a half-gram bead out of, well, let's see, right now, 25 grams of wet resin or 12 and a half grams of dry resin, roughly.
We only go by the 25-gram wet standard.
Yeah, they're basically the same thing. So we
not.
call it a standard charge, basically. But yeah, she's usually getting anywhere between 0.2 and 0.5 grams right now. So those are nice beads. You get a little bead. Let's see if I can get this. There's a camera. About that big. Those will add up quick. She'll be and all she's doing basically is assaying right now. She's not trying to do production because we don't know what the best way to do it.
Well, I was getting into production when the furnace actually kind of sort of worked.
Yeah, but the resin itself, what we're doing is we're verifying each batch of resin. She likes to do 2 to 4 assays to verify, but I told her only 2. We may want to do something else with that resin. I mean, that's 50 grams out of
330.
330. Yeah. So, that's about a seventh of the resin right there. But yeah, that's about where, fully loaded resin should be running about 0.4, 0.5 grams per standard assay sample. And those will add up real quick if I don't screw up the test or the furnace doesn't break in the middle of a test. And she can run, what would you guess at the current situation, about 2 or 3 per day, doing them in sequence? Or you're doing
At the current situation, if I plan very carefully, I may be able to produce 2 beads a day.
Okay, she says about 2 beads a day is current production rate because of the small size of the furnace.
I used to be able to do 6 in a day if I planned properly.
Yeah. Well, you say that you can't get 2 crucibles in there now?
Nope.
I'm not surprised because we did shrink it down a bit,
Oh, I'm not surprised either.
but should only have reduced it by about a half an inch on each side. So about 1 inch by 1 inch. Yeah, that's a lot in a 5.5 inch square space. But she's doing a lot where she'll have a crucible and a cupel in there at the same time. She can do that. But yeah, that's what she's doing, and that way we know what's in each batch of resin. And once we define the best way of dealing with it, which is also what some of these tests are, we try different things and see what it does against our standard assay technique. That's why I said the elution attempt didn't seem to get much gold, but it seemed to get something out of the resin that hurt the gold recovery. So now we're testing, okay, can we ash that resin without the large losses we were seeing before? If so, that's a breakthrough. That'll allow us to do something fairly efficiently. If we can ash the resin first, then mix it with a flux and smelt it down, that's going to increase the productivity by about tenfold. But currently the problem is the gold vaporizes during the ashing process to a significant extent, in the neighborhood of 20 to 50% losses, depending upon all the details. And that's just unacceptable, even the 20% losses. But we're working on it. Ash it underwater. Yeah. Look at Lars to come up with an answer like that. I agree, Shaggy. If we can get down 2 or 3%, I tend to think we could live with that. But 10%, yeah, that's a lot of money to be throwing away. Yeah, Paul, I used to be able to juggle a lot more irons than I can now. Eva's been a real blessing in terms of taking a lot of the lab work on me. Don't recall if I did Tricky. I kind of think I might have just glanced at it, but not really looked at it. I've got on my list of things to do tomorrow. Check emails. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there.
Yeah.
And we've been gone 4 days. Yeah, it's amazing to see what piles up in 4 days. Okay, Fritz, we'll see what we can work out. 130 grams per kilogram. Okay. The best we've loaded so far is 70 grams per kilogram. We've actually recovered and such. But considering how much gold you've got in some of your stuff, that may be certainly could be a factor of the gold concentration and other stuff too. So we're in the same ballpark, but yours is definitely better than mine. But 90 grams, that'd be 9%. We've recovered 7% before. But what, you have any idea what your concentration is in solution, Tricky? I mean, the most we've been able to maintain is about 15 or 16 parts per million in solution. So, your very rich ore sounds like you'd get a lot more than that in there. I don't know. Again, it also depends on other elements that may be in there contaminating, because Rock Butcher found a lot more stuff in the resin than the gold. Let's see. Okay. That's a different report. No, not that one. No. Let's see. Those are all very interesting, but not what I was looking for. Pretty sure I wrote a report on that. Dang it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
Where can I find a copy of it? Yeah. There's the analysis. So we're looking 3.7% gold, 1.7% nickel, 0.6% copper, 2.2% copper, 6% nickel, 1.7% iron, 1.1% zinc. So basically, you add those all together, and 3.6 plus, I'm going to throw the silver in there now, 0.18 plus 1.7 plus 0.6 plus 2.2 plus 11.7, 1.2. I think I missed a thing there. 3.7 plus 0.18 plus 1.7 plus 0.6 plus 2.2 plus 1.1 plus 1.4 plus. I'm showing 11% plus, and those are just the major concentrations of stuff in there. So that's pretty close to what you're talking about, Tricky. Well, the other thing is, Chris, is that there's not that much copper in solution. That was quite perplexing. It was definitely being highly selected for, because the solution assay didn't indicate that much copper. That's way beyond equilibrium with other things else. So it's very tenaciously grabbing the copper. And so I say it's in your ballpark there. Your numbers are better, but we shall see. Do you even have solution assays, Tricky? Considering where you're at, it may be difficult. Yeah, the copper amine was catalytic in the gold dissolution for the thio complex, Chris. I remember that. But let's say, I don't know. The other question is, can we take the resin, elute the other stuff off of it with the Eco Goldex, and then put it back in circuit and like double the loading? Another test to do.
Well, it's kind of hard for me to do science shit when I'm not in my lab.
Yeah, I know.
Just saying.
So that's there's just a lot of stuff to do. A lot of stuff to do. Thank God I got Eva to do that kind of stuff, and thank God she likes doing it. But yeah, we have loads of options. What was the nickel in ore assay? I really don't know at this point. I don't know how fast I can look it up, Chris. Let me try real quickly. Oh, why did they make filing cabinets that don't hold the file folders well? Okay. This is the file folder it should be in. I had to get it out for other reasons anyhow. So let's see. Because we had multi-element analysis. Let's see if I can find one real quick. I don't recall seeing any on the electron microprobe analysis. I should have somewhere in here multi-element analysis. Yeah, no, that's just gold. That's just gold. Mm-hmm. I'm going to need these this week. There we go. Heads, tails, cons, slimes. Okay, you're looking for nickel, huh? Sodium? Oh, come on. Oh, there we are. Nickel. 14.5 parts per million. How does that spin your crank there, Chris? I would try some nitric acid. If it's copper, it'll dissolve really quickly. If it's gold, it won't. Yeah, tricky. Yeah, that makes it a little complicated. So, my usual test for base metals is just nitric acid. That'll do a pretty good job of reacting, usually fairly violently. Although I think with iron, um, it self pacifies pretty quickly.
Yeah, it pacified.
YouTube's having a stroke again, huh? Well,
What else is
by my experience, that's going to make the left side of your body do weird stuff. Trust me. It also makes your wife get very excited. Trust me. But not excited in a good way. Trust me. Oh. You do get her undivided attention. Uh, I think a 10K test solution would be an aqua regia. Not now, Chris. Before, yep. Possibly. I don't know, Paul. I haven't used those test solutions. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, one time I had a lot of what looked like gold in the pan. So much so that I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah, a bullet casing had gotten in with the ore and went through the impact mill, which turns into lots of small, nuggety looking shreds. Did a really good job of doing that. Yeah, a little nitric acid cleared up that question real fast. Yeah, I was. It's the sort of thing. It's like, wow, that's just way too much metal. That didn't go to a dump. So yeah, it was pretty hilarious. Uh, Real exciting initially, but to say they within a couple seconds, like nah, that doesn't look like gold. You know, it was malleable. The first test, chunks of stuff. They kind of roll up, so it's kind of hard to tell. But it's the first thing is, are they malleable? They looked at smash. Yep, they're malleable. The next thing is, okay, put some acid on it, see what happens. Oh yeah, it's fizzing like crazy, and the solution's turning green. Yep, brass. Pretty though. Woo, that was pretty. Oh. Hmm. Any other questions or anything at this point? Yeah, I really need to get caught up on my reading on the stuff. Although I do have another project that suddenly dropped in my lap here, but it shouldn't be too time consuming. However, it is of high urgency. You know, very time sensitive. We have to have certain things all figured out by next Friday morning. Thank you, Shaggy. We'll do our best. Let's see what the weather is. I'm getting really tired of Arizona weather up here. I came up here to get away from Arizona. Even says Aero sucks. Arizona sucks rocks. So
Arizona absolutely sucks rocks.
weather Helena. There we go.
We all know this.
Well, by next weekend it should be rainy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 93, 89, 87, rainy. Yeah, it's going to be thunderstorms, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Precipitation 35%. Light rain. It's unusual for here. Sunday 88, precipitation 43, light rain. Monday, precipitation 46%, light rain. Very odd for up here. Usually it comes down fairly good. But we'll see, because if it sets up on the mountains. Let's see. Let's try. Yeah, closer to where we are. Doesn't show rain until Monday. Still 90 degrees or a little warmer. Let's see. Let's try this one. Same thing. Rain getting there on Monday. Okay. So, hot and humid. Oh, yeah, Fritz. It's a lot hotter down there if you're in Vail. Yeah, Lawrence. Hey, Chris, that sucks where you're at, especially with fires. 98 at Monte Cristo today. That's warm, but not unseasonably warm for you. .8% nickel? That's a lot of nickel, Tricky. You know. Lars, look at the palm of your hand, determine the sweat content and the sweat content on the lizard. I bet you it's very similar. Lizards don't sweat unless they're picked up by sweaty palmed men. Goodness.
Are you implying that lizards don't sweat?
Yeah, pretty much. They're cold-blooded. Even when it's hot, they're still cold-blooded because it's a term, not an observation. Yeah, Chris, I was thinking.
Oh, that's a likely story.
Well, you know what causes that, Lars? Oh. Anyhow. Any more mining stuff? Yeah, 0.8% nickel sounds interesting, Tricky. Keep those tailings. I don't know what the current price in nickel is.
Around 18 to 20,000 a ton, I believe. Remember, it's subject to a lot of manipulation.
Nickel. $10 a pound. So let's see.
So that's $20,000 a ton.
Just a second. 0.8 times 2,000. 0.8 times, 0.008 times 2,000. 16 pounds. So $160 a ton.
Yeah.
What is the color? What color is that stuff that makes mercury cinnabar? Well, what makes mercury cinnabar is sulfur. And sulfur is yellow, but cinnabar is red, I believe.
Yes, it is.
it may not be a high nickel content, but as Chris was saying, if you can easily concentrate when you've already crushed your rock and leached it for gold and silver, then it may be pretty. Um, it might be very simple to extract that using either gravity or flotation. I agree, Tricky. That's not bad. And then, you get another $160 a ton for very little extra effort. That's not necessarily a bad idea. We just want to see how easy it is to concentrate after you've already got your gold and such. Also, depending upon the situation, if your platinum group metals are with the nickel, then you might be concentrating the PGMs along with the nickel. Then it get really good. Really, Fritz? Wow. Oh, ouch, ouch, ouch. Oh my goodness. Lead oxide can be either red, yellow, or orange, depending upon a few factors. Can you pan it? Oh, yeah, it's dense. It's real dense. One thing you could possibly do in a very well ventilated environment is heat it. If it's an oxide or a sulfide, you might be able to reduce. Well, with an oxide, you probably have to put some kind of reducing agent like charcoal with it. Lead oxide, charcoal, flour, something like that. Or you could mix it as an assay flux where you take borax, soda ash, and what else?
Borax, soda ash, and silica. What are you trying
And
to
silica. Well, the guy's got a red stuff in the bottom of his pan. If you were to just use a standard flux, which is like roughly 1 part silica, 1 part one part silica, 1 part borax, 2 parts soda ash, roughly, and then about 1 part charcoal, and then heat that up in a crucible. If that was if that reduces that to a metal, then you can see what the metal is. If it was lead oxide, you're going to get some lead. It may not be the optimum mixture, but it'll reduce to lead if it's lead oxide. Yeah, my brother and I used to go lizard hunting a lot when we were little kids. Over in Yuma, they had desert iguanas that are up to that big.
That's rude to just hunt lizards.
Yeah, we didn't hurt them. What if it's platinum? Platinum doesn't smelt in any kind of a normal furnace that I'm aware of.
No, there are special techniques you need for platinum group metals.
Yeah. Eva assures me there's special techniques you need, which I would say is probably right.
I can tell you how to deal with platinum group metals.
You tried to smelt the lizards, but okay. You need to hit heat the crucible very slowly over a long period of time. It supposedly works with frogs.
Why on earth would you try to smoke a lizard?
Because they said, have you checked their stomach for nuggets? Yeah, PGMs are pretty tough to fire assay.
Check their stomach for nuggets.
I think they can eat the bugs. Need a hydrogen torch. Not really. She's just read the book, but she's getting a lot more knowledgeable as time goes on.
I can get him instructions for testing for platinum group metals. You can indeed assay for platinum group.
You might be able to do like an AA or something easier for platinum group, where you digest it in like aqua regia or something to that effect, and then put it in an analytical spectrometer. And that might be an easier way. Of course, I'm not going to work at the average home where you don't have an atomic absorption spectrophotometer or an induction coupled plasma spectrophotometer. But yeah. Anyhow. That's pretty good stuff there, Tricky. Okay. Yeah, if you ever stop learning, you're dead, Kevin. I don't know, Paul. Okay, Dave. Yeah, I understand. These are the hardcore. I'm getting pretty tired too. Anyone else got any questions or anything? Now, this is where somebody will come up with a good question with 20 minutes left. And yeah. Any more questions, anybody? Yeah, Chris. Oh, you're welcome, Fritz. Uh, uh, uh. Okay. Any more questions? Going once. Any more questions? Going twice.
So, $2.
Well, it sounds like it's about time to call it a night, everybody. I'm just dirty. Thank you, Kevin. Where to assay? If it's a simple gold silver assay, I use Fast Fire Assay in Colorado. He's pretty quick, and he's giving me consistent results with other labs. $45 a sample, no extra charges. Why my mind? Lawrence Hiddle, that's who it is. So anyhow, yeah, Fast Fire Assay. You'll find him on the web. Okay, so good night, everybody. Thanks a lot for everything, and appreciate all the input, especially the work you guys are doing trying to figure I don't think he accepts whole rock samples. No. But anyhow, night, Lauren. Oh, what do you think of the idea of hard facing the tips on a couple chisel bits? Okay, y'all take care, and I will see y'all next week. And or in case of people like Lauren, probably the next couple of days. Okay, yeah, because I need to bring over that jaw plate to get the hard faced, and we can maybe try some chisel bits too. See what happens. Okay. We're gonna call it a night. Thank you, thank you, everybody. Happy prospecting,
Good night, everybody.
and keep it safe out there.